the first day of Women's History Month. And I'm Timmy Bounceback, the name dropper. We've got so much to talk about today. Our guests are the Sklar Brothers, Jason and Randy, comedians, actors, hosts, cheap seat podcasters. I'm with Kat, LJ Chad. We're at State Social House on Sunset Boulevard. Everybody here knows it's Hollywood, and it's the rule to name drop in Hollywood. Sometimes it's tacky, sometimes it's lame, but sometimes it can be very effective.
Sure, absolutely.
I agree with all that.
Randy and Jason.
What's happening, Timmy?
It's good to be here.
Hi, how are ya?
So should we get into the elephant in the room?
You mean your shirt?
Correct. Did it charge your cell phone yet?
That
Do you
is,
even
what is
stand
that, a
up for
boy's
this?
medium?
Should we get into the elephant in the shirt?
Yeah,
that is.
Oh, gloves are off.
I know.
tight.
I've seen looser shirts on Simon Cowell.
Hey.
So that
This
shirt
is the greatest roast
Listen
ever.
to me.
My
Chase-
favorite episodes are when the guest just roasts
Yeah,
me
come
for
here we go.
45 minutes and this is already
Chase
off.
Utley, to me, I always think of him as a Dodger. Is that wrong? Is
Yeah,
that-
did he
no.
do it? He's going to go into the Hall
He's
of Fame.
gonna
as a
go
Dodger.
into the Hall of Fame.
Chase Utley, I saw him down at the Wawa on 5th and Lucas, and he was grabbing a water ice.
Sansome in 21st.
He was grabbing a water ice.
He's going to retire Philly.
Yeah. So we're doing
Philly.
our
Water
Philly accent.
Philly accent.
Water
is-
ice.
Water
Water
ice.
ice.
Yeah, he's out of Mount Laurel.
Yeah. Anyway,
Mount
so
It's New
I do
Jersey.
like that shirt, and I of course wore my jacket. I got this down at my buddy's store. We were telling you about the Quiz Daddy's closet. They've got great stuff
Looks
down there, but
amazing.
incredible old school, like actually real starter jacket.
Gear, but that's like gear. Like you don't
I
wear
was,
that.
I was lighter. I was lighter. I was a lighter man. I have an eye surgery here. I can't
know,
work
yeah.
out.
No, here's the deal. Like when you wear that shirt, you wouldn't wear that on a date, would you?
I wore it with Miss Kentucky to Dodger Stadium.
But you already knew her.
No, I
What?
met her out here.
You met
Well,
her
no,
out.
but
Yeah.
that's-
You knew her
It
before
wasn't your first meeting.
The Dodgers game wasn't a blind date.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
it
You
yeah.
never
wasn't
wear
there.
that on a blind date. Like people would have to know who
Yeah,
you are.
Okay.
Like, what did you put over a blazer over it?
No.
What did you put over that thing?
I just rocked it with
Just
jeans.
that? In
Yeah.
jeans?
No, you
Just-
definitely have
Yeah.
a jacket
By the way,
on.
you're
It
wearing
does
that in jeans or dress pants and like dress
Like
shoes.
Chelsea
Yeah,
boots.
Like, what are you in the Russian mafia? What's happening? What are you selling jeans out of a Ford Focus? What's happening right now? What
It's
the hell?
Armenian mafia. Get it
Jimmy
right.
Bounce back.
It's unreal. Oh, Mike Friedman had the greatest line of all time. He goes, dude, because he's a Philadelphia guy. He goes, you have a grown man on your chest
Yeah,
and your back.
that's right.
You're back.
Going and coming. You
Philly-
got it on going and coming.
Philly,
Coming all over your
listen,
back.
come on.
style.
We got to get into this real quickly
Let's
because
do it.
then
Let's
we
do
can
it.
just ramble on.
Let's do whatever.
So you guys are from St. Louis, Missouri, right?
That is correct.
Yes.
When did you know that the entertainment world was for you guys? And was it collective, or did one of you come up with it and the other one follow?
It's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, we started doing comedy when we were 14 in St. Louis.
Like stand-up?
Stand
Oh,
up.
shit.
We did it for the first time then. We did it,
Off and on.
we did off and on. The first time we did it was for our fall follies at our high school as freshmen. We did it in a show. It was pretty polished for that, I would say, more than like your normal kid who's going up there and doing it. We wrote some material and, of course, stole a bunch of material because that's what you did when you were young and didn't understand. But like, then we kind of started doing it more and more throughout high school, and then in college, like started doing it at the Comedy Club in Ann Arbor. We went to school at the University of Michigan, and then in Detroit, and we were really doing it. Started doing it at the Comedy Club in St. Louis, and you get to be around professionals who are doing it, and you start to realize, okay, maybe we could do it, but no one in our family ever did this.
And there's
No
no
one-
there's no
parents do.
schooling, right? This is
There's
like the school of
none.
hard knocks.
There was no like Uncle Jeff went out to Hollywood. And
Go
live with him for the
He'll
summer.
tell you how
Uncle
it is.
Timmy.
Uncle Timmy.
Uncle Timmy on
Right?
Hollywood.
He told you he was on Rizzoli and Isles. He'll do it. You know that's our joke. We told you this on our
Oh, I
thing. Like
know.
Anytime someone names two people,
we're like, that's the new Rizzoli.
Wilson and Phillips, they're the
The
new
new
Rizzoli
Rizzoli
and
and
Isles.
Isles.
Like whatever, two names of anything, we always are like, that's the new Rizzoli and Isles.
So we didn't have anybody to guide us as to like what are we going to be and what are we going to do and how do you make a way in this industry. So your question is like a hard one to answer because
Sure.
I don't know if we ever really thought that this was a path that we could
I
take.
think we thought it was like too good to
Too
be
big of a
true.
dream.
Yeah, like
Sure.
What did you study in Michigan?
So English majors at Michigan, got into law school. Both of us were like
we were going to go to different law schools.
about ready to go, and then we're like, no. Why would we want to be two more lawyers? The world doesn't need two more lawyers. Certainly doesn't need two more Jewish lawyers. Like we're done. Why contribute more to the stereotype? Let's try and be creative in a different way. And, you know,
we moved to New York.
Moved to New York, bet on ourselves, started doing comedy, and kind of jumped into a little bit of the comedy jet stream in New York at the time, mid-90s. There was like alternative comedy. So there was stuff happening at the clubs, and we were doing that. And then there were like these alternative comedy spaces downtown.
Which, by the way, there was Catch a Rising Star, which used to be on the Upper East Side, which was, you know, really where Seinfeld got his start, where a bunch of New York comics worked out a lot. It was Catch a Rising Star was right around the corner from the comics.
Was that Belzer too? Was Richard Belzer,
too.
Bill Maher?
Bill Maher,
everybody.
I mean, everyone. And then Rick Newman, name drop,
Yeah.
who just passed away this past
A day
week.
after Belzer.
Belzer dies, and Belzer was like
His
I
like,
love
permanent
Belzer.
host.
I love Belzer so much. He was so good to us. He was like this wonderful kind of fun comedy uncle to like us. We'd just come and started doing comedy when the Catch a Rising Star reopened on 28th between 7th and 8th, which was right by where we lived. And so this is like 95, 96.
96, yeah.
We started performing there, and Belzer would come around, and we're like, I love this guy. He's so great. He was so good to us. He loved our act, even though like
He used to do the fun. He had the funniest when we were kids and coming up and loving comedy. He was hosting like a stand-up special on TV. And he just made it was just a throwaway. He was like, yeah, you know, I kid God because God has a good sense of, and he like falls down, and it's such a great physical bit. And I love it. And we were like, God, this guy's so funny, so naturally funny. It is kind of insane that he like then went into a career where he didn't do
dramatic acting. Like he didn't really do any comedy on, you know, the show.
Yeah.
Side? Was
Well,
that his show?
it's Law and Order
Law and Order.
SVU.
Well, I think it was on the original Law and Order.
Oh,
maybe,
yeah.
Or
No,
go
I
look
think
it up.
I'm gonna look him up
Because you know who now is on Law and Order, who kind of comes. How did Ice-T get on that show? Cop.
He's
He
like
wrote
the
Cop
guy.
Killer.
Yeah, you're right, Cop Killer.
Yeah.
I know.
So,
It's
I
kinda
mean, that's
flipped
why the
other
show is
side.
great. Belzer and
I
Ice-T.
mean, you're
no
questioning
business.
you're questioning how he's doing that show and not questioning how he's doing car shield insurance commercials. I mean, like
Ice Cube did Are We There Yet?
right. So it's
That
like
you need to be done.
if
after that.
Eazy-E had survived AIDS, he probably would have done
Are You
like
There Yet
cheaper
too?
by the half dozen. You know what I mean?
Easier by the dozen.
Easier by the dozen with
Eazy-E.
Eazy-E, right?
Oh, good God.
Okay, so look up where
I'm
Belzer
looking
was.
up-
There's so much happening here.
I'm looking up Belzer because I want to know
So
which
that
show he was
whole thing, we jumped into this kind of jet stream of you know, the alternative comedy was happening down in performance spaces downtown. It was kind of this thing where a lot of industry folk were coming to these shows, and a lot of really interesting comedy was
on. Law
being
and Order SVU. You were right.
done, right?
I watch it. Dun 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 ding ding dong ding. If you want to fall asleep,
I know, man.
turn that on. Watch about
You
10
guys-
minutes.
What are your dreams like? Falling asleep to Law
Well,
and Order?
He always
Yeah.
solves the crime
Yeah.
in 30
At
minutes.
the end of the dream, he solves it. So Belzer, like, you know, that was Rick Newman. So when he opened Catch a Rising Star, he was really, really good to us. And he was like, I think you guys have something unique. I don't think you've necessarily figured it out yet, but you can come to our club on Saturday night or whenever you want to and work it out. And we had like probably like 13, 14, 15 minutes. And he's like, you're going to do 20-minute sets. So you better start working it out and figuring
That's a
out how
long
to get
set.
to 20.
Amazing.
Like right off the bat.
Yeah, it was incredible. And so like we sort of through all the rooms that we were doing, like figured it out. But he believed in us so much. He believed in you so much that you had no choice but to believe in yourself.
Then he kind of
That's
answered
so
the
cool.
second question.
Yeah,
Well, the
yeah.
first one is 14, you're comedians.
Yeah.
I mean, were you guys nerdy comedians or were you
Yes.
guys the cool guys?
We were
But
not the
still,
cool
being a
guys.
comedian takes balls and stones.
Sure.
So even if you were nerdy and you got up and did it, you earned some respect.
So we were nerdy in that we were good students and we hung with like the honors kid students. We played sports. So like we kind of had that aspect going too. We were
It wasn't full nerd.
full nerd.
I
But
mean, I think our thing was that we kind of just never fit into any one group, and I definitely feel like when we were in high school, the general population of high school did not appreciate our sense of humor in St. Louis. Like,
Okay.
we definitely found our people who were other creatives, like. We had friends in Kansas City through like Jewish youth groups and stuff, and friends in Minneapolis, and like
Hey.
these were funny people. There you go, funny people who, you know, we would make crazy videos and like send them back and forth and do audio sketches and send them back and forth to each other. Those were like our people. I think people in our high school, we just kind of learn to live with and connect with the way we could. But
It sounds like you were ahead of your time a little bit.
We were just a little like
humor
our
was ahead of
humor.
its-
Yeah, our humor skewed towards like stand-up comedy, which is like 20s and 30s
Yeah.
year
Right,
old stuff.
like-
Yeah, how
kids-
would you define your
high
comedy
school
at
stuff-
14?
At 14,
Like your comedy style.
so our style, like we were huge fans of course, like everybody at that time who was like us, huge fans of Letterman all the way. So like Letterman's show and the irreverence of what he was trying to do and how he would like just break weird things down
Larry
or
Bud
take the
Melman.
smallest detail. Yeah,
It was
the
before Larry Bud
It was
Melman.
before Larry Bud Melman, but he'd like take the smallest detail. We oftentimes give it this example. He had one like in a mailbag, you know, like sort of a
Viewer mail.
viewer mail thing. He'd read a viewer mail thing, and the whole letter would be one thing, and then
It'd be like, Dave, do you dye your eyebrows or do you dye your hair? Which one is it? Sincerely, Steve Brown.
Gary Brown.
St. Louis, Missouri.
P.S. The Mets are Pondscum. So simple thing, right? St. Louis, Missouri. And this is like when the Mets and the Cardinals were in the same division. And then Dave or the writers or whatever would be like, you know, Gary, I take huge offense to that. The Mets are not Pondscum. So that's already funny right there.
right.
And then he's like,
then he takes no offense to being like called out for
which
dyeing
thing
his
got dyed
eyebrows.
my hair, my eyebrows. It's like, I take huge offense to that. Their Mets are not Pondscum, and I'll prove it to you with this chart. And he pulls out a chart, and he's like, the Mets consume microbes. All right, same with the Pondscum. Mets occasionally damp. Same with the Pondscum. Here's one difference here. Mets eligible for free agency after 5 years. Pondscum not eligible for free agency after 5 years. Great joke. He's like, all right,
And then the best joke is
Mets have one player named Mookie. Pondscum, everyone is named Mookie. It's a fantastic bit. Like, we remember it to this day.
Crushing this bit right now.
And
Unreal.
that bit, that was like, oh, comedy can be that. This is the way we're funny around our friends. And it was funny because there was a little bit of a disconnect with stand-up because there was a huge stand-up boom in the 80s where it was like, you better be talking about the most obvious thing about you on stage. Or that's it. If you're a big fat guy, you're going to, here come a bunch of cut my arm open and gravy comes out jokes, right? Those are those jokes.
or you have to be observational like Seinfeld.
Yeah.
You have to be like, isn't it weird when women do this and men do this? And that wasn't what we were doing. And we also didn't want to do an entire act about being twins. We didn't
Right.
want to.
So we lucked out in that sense is that when we got through with college and we went to New York in 1994,
And what got you to New York? Because that takes some balls too.
took balls too. So
'Cause
our
how
friend,
old were you? I mean, like 22?
22.
Yeah, I mean,
22.
think about right now, 22.
I know.
You're pretty inexperienced in life.
Yeah.
coming
Yes.
from a family that didn't have
St.
any,
Louis. No one was in New York.
Yeah, like
We
who
had no
was in New
relatives.
York? We had no relatives in New York. I mean, it was either New York or LA. Where are we going to go? Thank God we went to New York first because you can make some mistakes there and
That's
you
what
could,
Swartzen said.
right?
Yeah, that's what he did. Well, Newman,
Yeah.
was it Rick Newman sounds like the guy that made your quote unquote dream and path in New York kind of reality.
He was one of the first that did it. We had a manager, William McLaughlin, who we just met, and then an agent who then became our manager, Peter Principato, who's out here now at Artist First. And like, those are people who believed in us early, said there's something interesting about what you guys are doing. And there was a whole comedy scene that like Upright Citizens Brigade, which is a theater here and theater in New York, and it's Amy Poehler and Matt Walsh and name drop.
You know, keep going.
Matt Besser,
Matt Besser,
Ian
Ian Roberts, name drop. Those, the four original members of Upright Citizens Brigade, they came and were just they were in the scene doing bits, and it was Mark Maron name drop.
Oh
it
my
was
God.
Louis
Louis C.K. and Jeff Ross, and I mean all these like
Sarah Silverman.
They were all in
Todd
Upright?
They were
No,
all
they
in
were
New
all
York
in New York doing
Okay.
alternative comedy, and so like the Upright Citizens Brigade was there, and then all these other people were doing comedy.
Galifianakis was
So
there.
the rooms you're performing in demanded that you create comedy at a certain level. If we were in St. Louis doing it, there were some good comics in St. Louis, but it wasn't like pushing you
Yeah,
to.
the cream rises to the
Yeah.
top.
It
in
wasn't
New York.
so like
You're
if
like,
you-
if I want to be on the same stage as Galifianakis and Upright Citizens Brigade and Dave Chappelle
Yeah,
and these
Louis
guys,
C.K. I mean,
all these
Louis
people.
and all these people, you're like, we better do something smart. We better do something unexpected. We better do something that is the best thing we've ever done. And that's what we had to keep doing every week. And
Whereas if you're in other places, you can fall into the trap of doing the thing that kills, but might be a little easier,
yes.
Big fish, little pond.
right? And
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
like, oh,
or also like you're like, let me. in this case, you're like, obviously we want the audience to like it, but we also want these people to respect us. So that's a double game you're playing. It's a very subtle difference between, there are some comedians who come up and they're like, I just want to slay the room. I want to destroy the room. I just want to kill them with whatever I'm doing. That's one type of comedian, and that exists. There are other comedians who are like, I want to do the smartest stuff possible, and I want to make all the comedians laugh. I think the most successful and interesting comedians are the ones who are like, I want those people in the back room to respect me, and I also want to do really well with these people. So how do I find that middle spot?
How do I hold myself to a standard yet also be doing stuff that is creative and unique? And so that's the goal, and the close enough to your voice. So we're learning all these lessons as young kids, 23, 24, 25-year-olds in New York. And then when we were 24, we got an opportunity to shoot a pilot for MTV for a show that was super creative and interesting called Apartment 2F, where
the pilot actually was more creative and I think better than what the show became, and we did a season of it. But the pilot was like a variety show in an apartment.
Like, we lived in an apartment.
Yeah, but that's MTV's hot at that time.
Yeah.
It was Remote Control, Colin Quinn, Jenny McCarthy, like that.
It was like
the
state,
which was
Michael Showalter, David Wayne, Carrie Kinney, Tom
Michael
Lennon,
Ian
name drop, all friends of ours, all buddies of ours, and like, all those people are still going.
Ken
on.
Marino.
Ken Marino is a huge billboard of him right up here on Sunset for Party Down, coming back.
Great show.
Just great show, great people. And so the state was really big, sketch comedy. And so, there was like an opportunity to do a pilot on MTV where we lived
Beavis and Butthead was
we
big.
lived in an apartment, and people would just come by, like stand-ups and sketches, and we try working in a little bit more into our
kind of have a loose storyline through the show.
Okay.
Not even really a storyline, but it was like one set, and we were too young to understand that on its own was a good idea. That's all it needed. And we were just sort of, I think they offered the show to like other comedians who didn't want to do it or just.
Oh, it's way ahead of its time.
Yeah. So they offered it to people who were bigger than us. And then we were doing a show in New York downtown that they came and saw, and they're like, these guys are good and young, and they kind of fit the mold of what we need. Young dudes in an apartment. It's believable they would live together. And so
it's their brothers.
Yeah.
And so like we got this pilot, and in the pilot was JB Smoove did stand up.
Oh my God.
And Upright Citizens Brigade, they all did a sketch where they came in and did this thing which was like really funny. They did like a role playing thing.
They're like, we're like, hey guys, what's going on? They're like, can we work something out with you guys? And we're like, yeah. And they're like, I'm kind of having trouble at work. Amy Poehler was like, I'm kind of having trouble at work, and I just wanted to kind of talk it through. We're like, yeah, talk it through. And they're like, we'll help you out, the other guys. And she worked in a restaurant, and so she's like, so I'll be the chef. I want to be the chef. And then they start arguing with each other about it. And then they make the scenario so real that she can't get out her issues with the chef. And it's so funny. And they did such a great job. That was a sketch in the show. Jason Nash did a little thing on the show. Who else was in the show?
Galifianakis was in the show.
Wow.
I mean, it was like an insane
Big
and
name
really
drops.
fun and weird and interesting and cool, and the show got picked up. We like several 2 months, 3 months later, the show got picked up, and we did a whole season of shows. They developed it in a way where it was more of a sitcom than after that, where it's like we lived in an apartment, Jay worked at an office, and
Real writing now, real story arcs.
Yeah,
Yeah.
real scripts, real 49 page multicam. They turned into a multicam sitcom, like with a studio audience, and
which was still
Did
cool.
you guys have creative control, or did you get bullied a little bit? It's the first pilot.
It was a mix. It was a mix,
Okay.
and
Were you in the writer's room?
yeah, we're in the writers'
Okay.
room, and we're helping out, and yeah, it was our vision. But of course, we're young, and we had a lot of inexperienced writers who were amazing, who have gone on to do incredible things. Our buddy Mike Royce, went on to be an executive producer on Everybody Loves Raymond, and then he created Men of a Certain Age with Ray, and did all these other. He's did One Day at a Time more recently. Has become like a huge writer in Hollywood.
Massive.
Yeah.
And that was his first writing job. And then all these other really good people. It was a true joy to work on, and we
I think
loved
he
it.
wrote a script. He was working on Spin City a little bit too in New York, so he may have already written a script for
Michael
them.
J. Fox, right?
Michael J.
Oh,
Fox, which
show.
was in the studio right next to us. We were at
Chelsea Piers.
Chelsea Piers in New York, and so that experience was awesome for us. But we didn't feel like we were ready for it. We felt like we were kind of just in over our heads, and we didn't know to push back and be like, no, what are you doing? Like,
this should be a little weirder and
it
less
should be weirder
traditional.
and less traditional.
Because
Like,
we kind of got dinged for it being too traditional for MTV, even though we had stand up in the middle of the show. Here were the stand-ups who we had. So like my job was that I was like a student. I was at NYU, and I was like, me and Zach ran this room, like a comedy room in like this thing. And so we'd just bring up comedian, like in the middle of the show, be like, I got to go to the show. And then we're in this like thing with people sitting there, and we'd have stand up. So again, we're going to drop some names here. Just so you know.
here's
So
the
get ready.
stand-ups who are on the show.
Patton Oswalt, Patrice O'Neill, Bill Burr, Greg Barron. Who else did it?
Jim Norton.
Jim Norton. I mean, these are the stand-ups who did our show.
And how long are they doing? Like 2 minutes, 5 minutes?
No, they did like
7 minutes,
5
6
minute,
minutes
5-minute
sets.
sets.
I mean, how can you beat
And
that?
you
That's
wait-
like Instagram today.
Right, and
you
you
just
weave-
watch these little clips. It's
and
insane.
we wove them into the storylines, and then we had sketches and like short films that got woven, and people would come in and be like, "Can I show you guys this movie?" and pop a like videotape into our thing.
Or
And
someone would be like, have you seen this commercial? Like in their video store, and then we go into the screen, and it's like a Japanese prank show done by like two comedians, Eric Sloven and Leo Allen, who are just a great comedy team in New York. So all these people had a chance to make short films. We had short films, we had sketches, we had stand-up woven into the show. It was a cool idea. But like, here's a perfect example. They made me kind of like an uptight guy who was trying to do a job, and that I was constantly trying to like rein him in, and that that you can't be irreverent like that. Like,
Right.
then I'm this kind of stick in the mud, and I'm
Yeah.
not that fun. So like, it would be way better if like the two of us like were just out of control together.
Yeah.
That's like,
Brothers.
so they were kind of trying to fit into like an Odd Couple sort of older model, and we weren't. First of all, we weren't good enough actors. We were fine. We did all right. We definitely held our own, but we didn't have years of television acting experience. This is our first acting gig.
Yeah,
on
and
TV.
like producers are trying to make you something it's already working.
That works.
No one has vision. They just want
Right.
numbers.
It's on the old thing.
It's the same
but
thing in the rock
it
and
was
roll industry that I did.
we didn't have enough of a vision for what we thought it should be, because we were called in to be the stars of the show. This wasn't an idea that was percolating inside of us for 10 years.
And we said, like, okay, if we ever get this opportunity again, we want to make sure we have a clear vision of what it was. And so then we moved out to LA in 99. And 3 years after that, or 2 years after that, we had the opportunity to do our show Cheap Seats in New York. We went back to New York 1 month at a week out of every month.
out of every month.
We were back in New York, and we are shooting this show for ESPN Classic, which was like Mystery Science Theater. But like, we really took the reins on that show.
Yeah.
We kind of made the show that we should have made in the old show. So that show had like, the spine of the show is we'd watch some old weird like spelling bees and
dog shows, cheerleading competitions, and it's just running jokes and commentary over it, and then sketches throughout, short film stuff,
running
like that.
bits. I mean,
Bits like we start talking to like the Beam that was like Beamy. We created a character named Beamy. I mean, talk about like old Letterman stuff. Like the Beam starts talking to us, and it's our friend.
And he's like an alcoholic, and he's like, listen, guys, hey guys, it's John Glazer who's so funny.
You guys don't understand. We're like, are you drinking, Beamy?
You're drinking.
You're drinking, and we're like, we're not drinking, Beamy.
Shut up,
Shut up, you
goddamn
stupid
and we're
piece
just
of
beeping
shit.
out everything he's saying, and it's so fun. It's like a weird character who then, we brought it up a few times, but then we wove him into like a major storyline from the season, and it became this show that very loosely was the show that probably the first show should have been.
Right.
But we learned from it, and we got to do
77 episodes of the
That's
show
fucking
on ESPN Classic, which people are like, how many people watch it on ESPN Classic? Well, it was run till 2010. It was run all the time.
Yeah.
So much so that, name drop, the Cubs, we found out that the Cubs in 2005, now we're Cardinals fans. So we're Cardinals fans. So like, this kills me more than
It's
anything.
like the Cowboys,
Right.
man.
Mark Pryor and Kerry Wood, the only thing on their DVR, on their TiVo, this is how long ago it was, on their TiVo in 2005.
in the clubhouse for the
All
at Wrigley Field.
Episodes of Cheap Seats. Then they'd go in the clubhouse and watch our show, and you're like, this is the
How'd you guys
coolest
find
thing.
out about that?
Because we were talking to someone who played with them.
Okay.
Was it Ryan Dempster? It was, or Glendon Rush.
Glendon Rush was like, he's like, I
That-
played with these
that
guys.
made me even-
I know, gone. So like, he's like, we had him on our podcast, and he's like, I played with these guys, and I just want you guys to know that like, in the clubhouse in the DVR, the TiVo that we had there. The only thing we had was your show.
That's so
Which
funny.
is just crazy to us. to
Aaron
think
Rodgers was a fan of the show. Snoop
Love
Dogg
it.
watched
Yeah,
the show.
well, you guys, you've been
People
around
watched it.
forever, man.
I know.
We've been
You've done
around
it all.
forever.
So that was lucky that we had that shot to do that, and we've done a number of things here and there, shows that went, shows that didn't go, and other opportunities, and tons of guest
Before I
stars.
walked up here to meet you guys, I was watching live the Yankees versus the
Washington.
Washington
Yeah.
Nationals.
Yeah.
And there's a certain somebody that got a triple. His
Mhm.
name is Harrison Bader.
Oh,
I
God.
go, oh, man.
Trying to
Dude,
steal your
man.
thunder. I see.
Dude, you think Harrison Bader can fit in this shirt?
No. Because he's too jacked. But Harrison Bader like had this long hair. He was kind of like a St. Louis dirtbag, and then he goes to the Yankees and he clean cuts it.
But
One
don't
of
you
the
have to
best
be a
dressed
Yankee?
guys
You can't-
in MLB.
Is he?
Yeah,
One of the best dressed guys in
yeah,
MLB?
he is. He's like known for that.
No,
Is
for
that
being
what
a
he's
show.
known
Isn't
for?
that a thing? The Yankees, you're not allowed to have long hair.
No, you
Or,
aren't.
like,
you aren't.
don't have to-
Sideburns, long hair, beard, you're not
it's
allowed.
stash if it's tight,
If it's tight, I
right?
mean.
I think.
I didn't know that about the Yankees. That they have like.
Have you
a-
heard like Goose Gossage talk about the modern day game? It's insane. I've had a couple of TikToks
No,
on my
go
thing,
ahead, give
but
it to
Goose
me.
Gossage is like, I won't even watch it. It's like that's just a bunch of shit, man. I won't even watch it. I wouldn't even look at it. It doesn't even resemble the game that I played. And the guy who's asking him questions is like, so you don't like it when guys just come in to get like 2 outs relievers? He's like, what? I pitched 4 innings, and like he hates the game today. It's remarkable how
I feel like
Well,
you
think
could say
about
that
all
about
these rules
every.
now.
Yeah.
Come on. I mean, they have
Pitch
the pitch
clock?
clock. They
Yeah.
got
Okay.
a guy on second. They have to speed the game
But
up if they
yeah.
want the youth of today to watch.
What do you think about the rules?
I mean, I think you have to speed the game up. I am not baseball out of all the sports is my least favorite. So
Because it's slow?
'cause
Kirby
it's slow.
Puckett?
And well, first of all, I grew up with the Twins,
Mhm.
minus the fact that like 89, 90, 91, but I was born in 89, so I didn't get to
What
experience
about
that.
87?
Well, I was-
87.
I was just a thought.
Yeah.
87.
But
you
a
guys
fan.
ripped our
But a
hearts
fan.
out.
But a fan.
nonetheless.
So
Yeah.
the Twins growing up for me was just like kind of nothing.
Mhm.
Where not that like the Vikings or the Timberwolves or anyone else has really done much for me as like,
No,
a
they
sports
aren't
fan.
champions per se.
Right.
But yes.
but it's just you have to. I'm not going to sit at home and watch the Twins game
You won't.
unless it's.
You don't care enough.
I don't
about
care
them.
enough. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
That makes sense.
I mean, Minnesota is a cold weather. To me, it's like when, and it's crazy to me when like the Florida Panthers are good at hockey.
It's-
I'm like, you guys
it's
don't deserve.
obnoxious.
You
It's
guys don't
obnoxious.
Like it
deserve
shouldn't be the
this.
Dallas Stars. It should still be the
North
Minnesota
Stars.
North Stars.
100%.
Period. That's a
The
great.
fact that the state of hockey did not have a hockey team
I mean,
for a time period.
you got the
is
Wild
insanity.
now, but I mean, still,
right. But there was the time period.
the
like
North
I
Stars,
grew
the
up a
Dino
Gopher fan
Cicerelli North Stars, of course,
because the
We got the
Gophers were
fucking
great,
Flyers.
and we didn't have the North
Flyers.
Stars.
Broad Street Boys. Broad Street Boys.
Dave Brown.
Dave Brown Clark. He was dead, no teeth. Guy had no front teeth. Just a mouthful of nothing.
Who has the most World Series? The Yankees do it, and then who has the second most?
Cardinals.
Wait, but
Yeah.
is it close?
It's not close.
Not even close. The Yankees have like 26, and the Cardinals have like 14.
11.
So is
No.
baseball number one for you guys? Like
So
personally?
number
Has to
one
be.
for us,
Has to be.
number one for us is University of Michigan football,
College football.
Okay.
college
Sure.
football,
Harbaugh.
and then Harbaugh, and then I'd say University of Michigan basketball,
Okay.
then St. Louis Cardinals, then Blues, then University of Michigan hockey.
Wow,
That's
so
the
you
way
guys
it
are
goes. for us.
diehards. You and Portnoy, huh?
Yeah, I mean, Portnoy's a huge.
We have Elliot, our buddy, playing
Yeah.
there, and Steve Watson.
Elliot Mueller.
Oh yeah, Elliot
Miller.
Wheeler's
Yeah.
a good buddy of ours. I
Yeah.
love Elliot.
Yeah,
He's
you
wonderful.
know Watson, his buddy Steve Watson. He played both sides. He was a
Yeah.
tight end.
And
Wow.
then he went to.
When I met him, he was playing Ohio State when Michigan wasn't
Oh,
very
yeah.
good,
Yeah,
and Watthead would just
go
He-
after people.
no. He was the tight end. Who was the quarterback that was when Elliot played? It wasn't Pat Shea, was it or not? It was a
No.
long time ago.
Pat Shea.
It was like
You're talking
2000.
Denard
It
Robinson.
would have been like 2000.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, but I only
10.
remembered Watthead because
Denard
he
Robinson.
backdoor covered the game. I had no idea who this guy was. I go, who is this Steve Watson getting annihilated across the middle?
Yeah.
But he's going to cover against Ohio
Oh
State.
my God.
And I think it was like, you guys were probably Michigan was plus like 28.5 or something.
Right.
And
They were
Do you have
so
money on
much
the game?
worse.
Yeah, I had a ton of money. Of
course you
I
did.
tell Watthead he
It's like
never
bet-
pays for anything
like
in front of me.
ask someone who bets like and they know specific games on specific dates and why things happen and like I was
100%.
reading something like last night when we're recording this there was like a Virginia game, like someone shot like a half court shot at the end of the game
Yep.
that didn't mean anything. and a Virginia guy
Literally
rebounded it, and it just screwed. Like, it was a bad
Yeah.
beat.
Scott.
Yep.
Yeah, Scott. The bad beat is the greatest show
That
of all
beat's
time.
great. So for gamblers, that is the moment where you're for non-gamblers like us. We just watch the games for the results, and we don't realize that people are hanging on
Their whole life.
the results.
Yeah.
People's future. I mean, I'm sure you watched Uncut Gems. And,
Yeah.
I loved it.
and Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems.
But you watch that, and that
I was
is-
his muse.
and it John
Uncut
Safdie.
Brothers.
John
Uncut
Safdie.
Gems.
You watch that, and obviously that's a heightened version of what goes on for people, but there's probably people who are in that spot.
This
We're
guy
going
right
right
here.
here.
This guy
Allow
right here to interject.
Yeah, Tim.
First of
please.
all, the greatest thing about that movie is they simplified and they dumbed down the betting
Right.
so that the lay person could
Yep.
understand. You know how many scripts get pitched to me for gambling?
Yeah.
Like, oh, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Nobody has the time to understand
Right.
what a furlong is.
Right.
Or, but
And then betting people will be like, they didn't get it right.
They didn't
get it right.
They didn't get it right. It's so technical. They didn't get it right.
right, but nobody bets the tip
So it's
of
interesting.
I don't even know if that bet exists.
I'm sure it exists.
I'm sure it does now.
So would that qualify as a prop bet?
It would.
Okay.
But the fact that they spoon-fed someone that didn't understand, okay, the first bet is that it was Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It gets the tip. We can process that
Right,
you can
as a
understand that.
non-gambler.
Yeah.
I love that movie so much because I think, allegedly, I'm not sure who told me this,
Mhm.
but the end of the movie looks as though Adam Sandler, it's all going to work out.
Yeah. He's
gonna
His
win.
chick
Yep.
didn't dick him over.
Right.
His wife knows the truth. But the moral is that guy that shot him was so unhappy with his own fucking life
That's it.
that his only pleasure was beating up Adam Sandler.
That's
and
it.
when Adam Sandler figured it all out and got lucky, he couldn't live with himself when he shot him.
Yeah.
That's most of humanity.
That is.
Human
I
beings
agreed.
do not like to see other fuckers succeed.
That's it.
why
That
I'm a
is
very
the truth.
guys like us, we're the kings of the hill. They're always trying to get us, push us down.
Don't put us up there.
I wouldn't put
I don't know.
you
if
may
we're
be
there.
up there.
You might
We're
be.
up there. We're
Fine,
up there.
fine,
Rocky
fine.
Mountain High.
Sure, fine.
Come on, guys
Fine.
like
Well,
us.
I'll take it. I mean, yes, I do think that there will always be people who are desperate. There are always people who are angry at their situation, angry at anyone who's succeeding in front of them. People who think that you're lucky and I'm not. You're lucky and I'm not is
By the
a
way,
motif in
it is.
gambling. And
Yes.
it's hard to not in this industry, and tell me if you guys feel this way. I mean, we like to think of it like a ladder. There's like a huge ladder. That's all that we're doing is climbing up a ladder. That is it. Sometimes it feels like that's all you're doing is trying to climb up this ladder, and it's hard, and there's a lot of steps,
And you
it's
feel like you've been on
scary.
the same rung
The
forever,
same
or
rung
you're
forever.
down 5 rungs from
Yeah,
where
how
you
did
were
I
5
get down
years.
here a couple of years, and you look up and you're just looking at asses. You got a bunch of ass in your face, and it's like, and then you see someone up there that you're like, how come I'm not up there with that person, that woman, that man? How come I'm not up there
We
with that?
started together.
We
How
did
come
the
that
same thing.
person-
They're
Yes.
way up here.
Oh,
How
God.
come I'm not there? But then you got to take a moment and look down, and you see that the ladder is so huge, and then there's a line to get on the ladder.
Yes.
Yes.
And then
That's
there's
a
a
great
line of
analogy.
people lining up to get into the line. And then there's a bunch of people around a building around the corner who don't have the guts to get into the line, that gets into the line, that gets to the line, that gets to the ladder, that gets up to the thing. So you have to like take all that into consideration.
Did you come up with that? Because it's
We
amazing.
We did.
We
I mean,
did.
I have got to open a beer because that is an
Crack it.
incredible way.
Crack-
And then
Gay
there's like
crack
I
a
will drink
Modelo.
to that.
there's
You
like a
will.
monkey bar below the ladder
Right,
that you're
right.
swinging
That
from
is
opportunity
such an
back and
incredible
forth,
analogy.
like skipping. You know?
I know.
That's it.
Yes.
And let me ask you this.
You got to take a
because
moment and just appreciate it on
It's
some level.
I've come across a lot of actors, and it's like, predominantly I only do commercials, and that's changed dramatically
Sure.
because now there's major celebrities.
Oh, yeah.
doing
Forget it.
commercials.
That's
But
all it is.
when you were getting 6 auditions a week, you would see the same people at every audition.
Sure. Yeah.
And it took like some people are so fucking cutthroat, like they won't talk to you before the audition
they
or
don't.
whatever.
No.
And my whole theory is like this: I've had 2 jobs where myself and 2 of my best friends were on hold for the jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them, I was the only one that didn't get the cut. Does it hurt? Yeah. Is it disappointing? For sure. But do I want my 2 friends not to get the job?
I mean,
I'd rather have them
that's
get the job than
gracious.
2 guys I don't fucking know.
And then there'd be people out there being like, you don't want it bad enough. You don't want like there's that attitude. Do
But
you know what I
that's
mean?
fucked up.
It is.
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
It is because so I was watching even a clip of John C. Reilly talking about auditioning. He was like, when I was just an actor before I was on the other side of the camera, I always used to be like, this isn't fair. This is about me. I didn't do a good enough job. This didn't work out. He's like, it's literally almost never about you. He's like, because if they want you, you can screw up the audition and still get the part.
They're like, that's not like
if
him.
you're right, if you're right for the part, if you're what they envisioned in their brain before they or when they wrote it, if they're like, this is these guys, this is this guy, this is me, this is Randy. It's almost more of a miracle if you're not what they were expecting and you come in and give them something so
changes
interesting
their mind.
that changes their mind. That's almost more of a miracle.
It's a miracle
than anything.
It's a miracle.
So much to talk about.
Yeah.
So Mike Judge said his least favorite thing in production is casting.
Yep.
And he goes, because realistically, he goes, you see people come in and absolutely destroy.
Crush
Yes.
They crush it. And you're watching these people and you're like, God, this guy's great. This guy's great. He goes, and the person that comes in to the room, so there's 6 or 12 people, within 15 seconds before the person opens their mouth, the whole room's like, this is the fucking guy.
Yes, right.
They're not saying this is the fucking guy.
But they know it.
But they
know it.
just know
They
it.
know
And
it.
he goes, it's just heart-wrenching because so many people put so much effort
That's
and
right.
they kill it. But there's just this guy that walks in. That,
I mean,
and it's the way it is.
By the way, it's that way in comedy too. Stand up, like you could be the best stand up ever,
Yeah.
but if your material, this is now getting in very granular, isn't saying something in the moment that everybody wants something to be said by this person, you can be hilarious and still just be spinning your wheels. Whereas someone else,
we're headlining comics and we'll bring different acts to open for us. And sometimes we destroy after somebody who does a good job. And sometimes it's like harder work for us with the same material. We're not doing different stuff. People are coming out to see us. But if the person in front of us gives the audience exactly what they want in a way that we don't, then we have to work harder with our stuff because it's not tickling them in the same funny bone. It's not going to the same place that's releasing their laughter in the same way. That's no fault of our own. That's no fault of the comic that came before us.
they're great.
That's just the biology of the
I
moment.
love that because the craziest thing is was when I was in a band, if the opening band kills it for you, they're doing you a favor.
That's right.
That crowd is pumped up.
Ready to go. They're
ready
goosed.
to go.
Yeah.
And it's like, and the other thing is, if you have Born to Run by Bruce Springsteen, you can play it forever. When you have a great joke, you got to write another great joke.
Yeah, it's right. It's done.
It's,
that's
comedy's so much harder.
So we
harder.
say, so when fans want to go, when they go out to see a concert, they want to see all the songs they know. The second the band's like,
we're gonna do our new album.
So I was at
Boo.
the everyone's
crazy.
mad.
I'm going to go get a beer.
Yeah.
I was at the Greek Theater. I went to see Wilco, one of my favorite bands, one of our favorite
Tweety.
bands. I love Tweety, Chicago guy.
Name drop.
Name drop. And I wanted to see, I was so excited to see this concert. I hadn't seen him for a while. And he's like, all right, here's the deal. We're going to play the new album, song 1 to song 10 right now.
In order.
In order. I want you to stick around and watch it. And I think you guys will dig it. And you may have a new appreciation for these songs. And then we'll play all the other shit. But we're going to play those songs right now.
How did you accept that?
And I sat and watched. And I was like, yeah, as a performer, I knew that was a risk that he was taking. And I knew that it was like, but it was a calculated risk because he knew he was going to, even if people were like not psyched about that, he knew he was going to finish strong with all the stuff that people got.
I like
And
the
you-
disclaimer too.
And you hear the songs and the thing, and you're like, these are better than I thought they were.
Yeah, I
but
didn't
then
like
you,
that song, but then
you get to like the classics,
The
and you're
hits.
like, this fucking
this
band.
is a great song. And you realize also that like, bands, and you know this, like you get inspired to write the song that you're inspired to write in that moment. You're not like, it's impossible for Bruce Springsteen to sit down today and be like, I got to write another Born to Run.
Impossible.
I got to write another Rosalita. I have to tonight. By next year, we have to have another da-da-da. They can't. He has to write the song that is coming from whatever creative source is going through his hand and writing it down.
And the world, the pop culture,
world,
the
the pop-
technology, the sound.
what
his
he's
moment
feeling.
in his life, what's bothering him, what's important to them. You got to write what is affecting you in that moment as a creative person. For us right now, it's that we're parents and we've been dealing with all this parent stuff. That's the most pressing issue in our lives, the most universal thing we can talk about. And that is
It's the thing that usually whatever is putting you in the hardest situation and like in your life, the most uncomfortable situation, that's what you write.
I saw Larry David, interview with Larry David, and I got to do Curb Your Enthusiasm, which was amazing.
I love it. I wanna get to
Unreal.
that too.
So I saw an interview with Larry David, and he's like, the good thoughts aren't funny. The bad thoughts are funny. And that's the truth.
Because it's
He's-
something we all share too.
Well, it's what we
Yeah.
all think. So like he's just saying the things we're thinking, but we're not saying. Larry, come upstairs and say goodnight. Say goodbye to the baby.
Say goodbye to the baby. That's my favorite thing. This is the most Larry David thing ever. Go up and say goodbye to the baby. He's like, I don't want to see the
goodbye to
baby.
the baby.
Susie is like, get the fuck up there, Larry, and say
go
goodbye
see
to the baby. And Jeff's like, just do it, Larry. And he's like, why? Who's it for? The
Is it
baby's
for the
not
baby?
gonna remember. Baby
this.
doesn't give a shit.
I don't
if I'm
want to
gonna-
say goodbye to the baby.
Why am I going to do this? And Susie's like, get the fuck up there, Larry. And Jeff's like, just do it. And he's like, I don't want to do it.
So on some level,
So
he's
good.
right. He doesn't. The baby's not going to remember. No one's
And
going
then
to
on
care.
another level, go up and see the fucking baby,
Yeah.
Larry. Just go up and see
You'd
it.
be on the way home if you just done it.
Right,
If he
but
just
like
done
he
it.
can't,
But he
give
can't let
in.
it
There's
go,
something
and-
inside of him that can't give in, and then in that moment, you say to yourself, "You are," and because it's born out of who he really is,
Right.
and then it's heightened because of what you're the most one of the best drawn characters ever. As we create characters for stuff, because we write TV shows and movies and whatnot, we try and create we try and create individual characters that like it dropped in any situation, you know exactly what they do. That's a beautifully drawn character.
Sure.
To the point where if the audience knows the character and then a
situation
situation
comes
happens
up.
and this person walks in the room, you're like, oh shit. Oh shit, I can't believe this woman is walking into this situation, because you know who she is and you know exactly what she's going to do. And then if she changes and surprises you, then it's even more of a surprise.
That's it. That's what
Wait,
she's right.
I gotta get back to this because I didn't know you were a Wilco guy.
It's huge.
My band back in Philadelphia was the Love Huskies. We were three brothers and a cousin.
Great name.
Nice.
And
Great.
I forget who the keyboard player is because we used to open up for Jeff Tweedy and Wilco.
No way.
And they played at the Tower Theater
Hmm.
in 1996 on Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm.
I attended it because I was still in school, and they were smart enough to give everybody Valentine's Day's cookies in Philadelphia. What do you think happened? Third
Everybody,
song.
they threw
them
the cookies
all at
on
the
the
stage.
stage.
And Tweedy disarmed him by playing like he was a duck getting shot. And every time he hit, he turned around, and the fucking audience loved
Loved
him
it.
and stopped throwing cookies.
That's how you.
He
that-
steered into the fire and said, Philly, I'll give you a fucking one or two songs, and then I'm blowing your balls off.
That's
Yeah.
great.
It was like Bill Burr did it to Philly.
Bill Burr did
Bill
it
Burr
to
did
Philly,
it to Philly.
clap
If you just steer
famously.
into the dumbness of Philadelphians,
Yeah.
you'll win
Yeah.
them over
That's it.
forever and ever and ever.
It's just going head to head and just being like, I'm not afraid.
Yeah.
I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm not gonna be rattled by this moment at all. And then you got
It's
it.
beautiful,
It's great.
man.
I
Beautiful
love
moment.
that you love
Yeah,
what
oh my
other
God.
kind of bands do you like? That's like
So we're super into Wilco. We're into God. Who else are we into?
I mean, we love
new music, like
New.
new music that's coming out.
here's
There's-
polarizing.
Okay.
Coldplay. Where are you guys?
I don't like.
Tim's a huge Coldplay
I'm
guy.
not- although
Yes,
I-
you are.
I like Coldplay. I don't own one record. I own the first one. I've seen it twice.
I think
like there. Here's
interesting. I mean, I definitely like interesting and definitely like a sound
Who's
of the
new
time.
that you like? Because like I don't like new music.
Oh my god!
Oh
I
my
love
God,
Sam
so
Fender,
much.
Holly
So-
Humberstone.
no,
Yeah.
So much new
I
music.
think this band.
Holly
John
Humberstone.
Andrews and the Yawns is an amazing new band. Cut Worms is an incredible new band. That's
Panda Bear, Edge of the Edge. That song, Rubble Bucket, is incredible.
Wow, we are in college.
I mean,
we're back.
we're
in
back in.
Michigan.
I mean, it's all
dude,
all those
Scott McMicken and the ever expanding. That he was with Dr. Dog, and he's now individual. And his new song is great from this year.
I'm just thinking about albums and stuff like that because
It's
I've
tough to
I
find
have
new
actual
music, boys.
vinyl and I fucking love it, and so like I just listen. I play this. I have like 1,000 records, and I in the morning when I do all of it for my kids, like I let my wife sleep and I take care of breakfast and make their lunches and feed the
You're
dogs
cranking
and
music.
put away. And I literally my treat to myself for doing all that shit in the morning is I pick the record, I put it on, and that's what's playing in the house when I go do that, which is great because now my kids know every fucking song. So we'll be watching a movie and like, you're watching, if you watch The Departed, there's a point in The Departed when they're in the bar and they're playing this obscure Beach Boys song, Sail on Sailor, which comes off the album Holland, which is this weird fucking song.
Yes.
Weird fucking.
We might have to another episode.
This
is
is so
unreal.
weird fucking song, and it's a beautiful album that I have that's like incredible. And like, if that were to come on, my kids would be like, we know that song. I know that song. They know the album so well they can make fun of it.
But my kids are introducing me to good music. I love Babytron. Babytron is like a Detroit rapper who's unbelievable. He's so good. I love
Serengeti. That's a Chicago.
Joey Valance and Bray are kind of like a new version
I don't
of
know anybody.
the Beastie Boys.
The
Like,
kiddos are keeping you young.
Yeah,
They are, but like we
hunt it.
give it out to our kid. It's so funny because
Do you go to concerts? You like live concerts?
love going to concerts.
Yes.
So
Who have you seen the most? What band have you seen the most times?
seen the most? Let's see.
Maybe it's Tweety. I mean, I saw Tweety at Largo. And that might be the band that I've seen the most. But like, God, I don't know, man.
We just see everything. Like I've seen Pine Grove twice with my daughter. That's another like cool band. It's so funny because my daughter thinks that my tastes is like she's 17, and so like we share a lot of the similar music.
That's
and she's
amazing,
like,
by the way.
She said, and I send her a bunch of stuff, and she sends me a bunch of stuff, and she's just like, "You're like my lesbian father." You have the tastes of
got your humor.
my lesbian.
She
He's
nailed
like,
it.
you're my lesbian
He
teenage
likes softball.
father.
He likes women. He's into it.
I'm like, I have the tastes of a lesbian 17-year-old girl when it comes to music. I love Girl in Red. I love Biba Doobie. These are great.
This is dad of
Claro.
I love Claro. Yeah, I'll get into all that. I took
That's
my kids.
so
I
cool,
love
'cause
Barry.
What 17-year-old wants to go to a concert with their dad?
So like we'll go
you've got
see
cheat code here.
She's amazing.
She,
And
Yeah.
we'll go-
she doesn't like Taylor Swift or any of that.
She loves Taylor Swift. And,
I do
and
too.
that, so
I do
like
too.
here's,
know,
we're going to
I
Taylor
know.
Swift.
No, but so my 9-year-old, she's 9 now, knows Taylor Swift, knows all that stuff, but she's into old jazz music.
Love.
So I'm like, she loves Dave Brubeck. Every night I have to play Dave Brubeck lullabies as she goes to sleep. We were in New York, and I was like, I'm going to take you to this jazz club that we used to go to when we lived in New York, when we were doing that MTV show called Smalls. It's this little club around the corner from Village
I mean,
Vanguard.
it's
in
strange
Westwood.
that a place named Smalls would be little. But
Yes.
anyway.
But it's
It's
been
a
around for a
New York.
while, though, right?
It's
I
been
feel like
around
I've
for a
heard
while, and then it went away, and then it came back.
Okay.
Okay. So it is downstairs. It's like 80 seats or 60 seats, maybe packed. And
You're
it's
like, can I
seated.
get my 9-year-old?
So I went to the front door, and I'm like, can I bring her in here with me? And they were like, yeah.
We're only gonna give her a little bit of alcohol,
Yeah. I was like, they said,
just to shut her up,
they
right?
said, yeah. And I'm like, well, how much does it cost? And they're like, she can go in for free. And she and I went in. She was blown away. It was so much fun to see live jazz in New York, like a 9 o'clock show. We were on LA time in New York. I was like, you can stay up late. And we watched this jazz show live. And I went up to the band afterwards, because we're performers. I'm like, Randy and I, when we're on stage, there's a lot of nonverbal communication going on as we're kind of sifting through what we're going to do and where we're going to head and what's happening even within bits. I was watching the jazz band. They were doing that too. Like they were kind of passing it off to each other, and I could see them nodding and communicating with each other. And my daughter was taking it all in. And I'm like, this is a very cool moment. And she still loves Taylor Swift and still loves all the new stuff.
Oh yeah.
But that
But
was
if she's
very
got an
cool.
ear for jazz, you got to put
That's
her in some
dope.
music school because
Yeah.
she's probably super advanced. to
So
have an ear
I'm
for
like,
that.
you should start a jazz club. Like she loves
Yeah.
John Coltrane. She loves, she loves, oh my, Giant Steps by John Coltrane is like her favorite song. I'm like, what's your favorite song? She's like, that. Or Milestones by Miles Davis. I'm like, those
Wow.
two songs are early in their careers. She's like, where can I see John Coltrane now? I'm like, he died. She's like, where can I see Charles Mingus now? I'm like, he died.
Yeah.
What about Miles Davis? He died. She's like, is anyone alive? I'm like, no.
No.
None
But
of those
what a
people.
mature ear. That's a mature. Your ear does take time to
It's-
mature to
yeah,
hear things sonically.
His daughter is like has strangely without like wanting to push that to a point
Yeah,
where
she's not like weirdly precocious and like wanting to sit with a beret
She's
in
still
a
a little
coffee
kid.
shop and drinking espresso.
smoking a
Smoking.
long
No,
menthol.
she's
like,
still a
Virginia
little
Slim.
kid. Yeah,
Yeah.
in a cigarette holder that's this long.
she is still a little kid, but she'll just be like, I'm like, what do you want to listen to in the car? And she's like, Dave Brubeck. Dave Brubeck?
I
It's
mean,
amazing.
Like, the
And you're
old
like,
Nine?
what? You don't want to listen to the Art Tatum trio?
let's go.
Jazz thing. But so my daughter's 17, about to go to college. She's about to go to the University of Michigan. She's
Wow.
about to go next
Wow,
year. So
Wolverines.
excited. So, but I'm like, and I told her this. I was driving. I'm like, you are going to be so fucking cool at school because your musical tastes are insane. Like your knowledge of all the things that I've ever played for you, every Neil Young album, every single like the Pete Townsend album, like Who's Next. There's not Who's Next, but there's like there's a Pete Townsend album that's just incredible. You know that
the Graham Nash solo
Graham
album.
Nash's 2 solo albums that are incredible from the 70s, like Songs for Beginners and what's the other one? I can't remember the other one, but it's like another great one. All the Van Morrison, the weird Van Morrison stuff. Bob Dylan's Street Legal. Like people be like, I know Bob Dylan. And you're like, yeah, but do you know Street Legal? 1979, right before he got all Jesus-y and he had like full background singers, Post Desire. It's so fucking good.
Music trivia, you guys
And
dominate.
I'm like,
Yeah, seriously.
I'm like, you will know all of that stuff. And there'll be a point in time where you like open it up to your friends and show them what you got. Even like the most knowledgeable music person is going to come in there and you're going to be like, I know more than you. And not in a mean way, but like, let me show.
Or I also know what you know.
Right. I got you. Right?
I'm
Right?
about to give you guys a tremendous compliment.
All right. Thank you. Let's
Please.
hear it.
As parents, I'm one of 8. I can never say it. I did not have that relationship with my parents, and music is the soundtrack of your lives.
Yes.
So all these incredible bonding moments that you guys are having with your kids are just invaluable.
It's the best.
You are preparing them. It is the best, and you're preparing for the worst in the world because you love your kids. They're going to hear these songs, and they're going to think about the love
I know.
from their fathers.
It's
Where is Audrey the healer to the stars? Because there's 2 stars that do not need fucking healing.
We don't need it. But I mean, but that stuff is
I
beautiful.
mean, we talk about this all the time, and I think we can relate to you. We can relate to each other about this because we have all had careers that kind of defy logic. That the fact that we're still around and still doing stuff, maybe not doing as much stuff we've done in the past, or doing different stuff, the fact that we found ways to survive over such a long time is in its own way miraculous. The byproduct of that is that we are not gone on movies for 9 months out of the year. We are not on the set of a TV show for all of your children's important
In
milestones
Vancouver,
of their
yeah.
lives.
Right.
Right. We are not, even running to Vancouver every other week for this, that, and the other. Now, we were up in Toronto doing What We Do in the Shadows last fall for a month. That was great.
Yeah,
That was amazing. I love that show.
Amazing.
Love that show.
But I miss Thanksgiving.
He missed
which,
Thanksgiving. So we don't do that all the time. So what we've been afforded in this weird, like inexplicable career that we've had is the ability to be there for our kids throughout everything, all the way through his daughter going to college, me through my kids growing up. Like we are able to be there. And I would trade, like if someone's like, we go back to the ladder, I would trade 5 rungs on the ladder, 10 rungs on the ladder to stay right where I am and keep being able to be there for my kids, just to know that, like, you know, I'd like to maybe go a rung higher so that we know we're okay financially. But I would also like to stay where I am because we're around.
It's
That's
cool.
really cool.
You kind
That's
of like
great,
you get you try and go as far as you can while also being able to be around and do that, because you're right, man. Our parents were great and they loved us, but they left us to our own devices a lot. We were latchkey kids because both parents worked, and we were, you know, like our love.
They didn't know what we never sat in the car and like picked songs out with them. We
Yeah.
never.
No way.
We weren't allowed.
Like, shut up.
I mean,
Yeah.
I love the Replacements. My parents were like, it sounds like racket.
Right.
Like
They wouldn't know.
Westerberg's like my favorite writer
Right,
of all
right.
time.
Meanwhile,
So, like-
unbelievable.
Yeah. But I do like Frank Sinatra, and that's the only guy, my dad, who's still with us at 93.
Probably
listens to.
loves.
But I love Sinatra too.
Right. So like
So
that's
do you know the Sinatra Live in Paris? The you know that album? Of
Probably,
course.
I know it probably not
It's
as well as you.
unbelievable because also he does a lot of banter on that album. You should play
Really?
that with
I'll
your
have to
dad.
check
You
it
would
out.
love it. It's incredible.
I'm sure your dad knows.
And he's
it.
funny, and he's like, you know, he's like older a little bit, but not super old. So like he's with it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like 60s, like because he's polished. The band is tight, and he's also just like funny. Like he'll make a joke. He'll be like, champagne, that's a drink. Like to the French. And like, you know, I get no kick from champagne. It's like wine. Like he makes like jokes to these people, and he's really in the moment, and he's making no apologies for speaking English. He's not trying to like meet them where they are. He's just doing his show. It's really, really
Did
good.
he mention Johnny Holiday?
No, I don't.
You
think
know,
so.
Johnny Holiday, he's passed, was like the Frank Sinatra and Elvis of France.
Of France.
Of France.
So I'm wondering if maybe Johnny Holiday, I can promise you Johnny Holiday was at that show.
He probably was at that
Guarantee
show.
you.
Maybe opened up.
Maybe
It's
opened
hard
for
to
him.
say.
Maybe opened.
Definitely
I mean,
backstage drinking champagne.
or he
Live in
brought
Paris.
him out
Check-
to do a
check-
couple songs.
Check out Frank Sinatra live in Paris. And I have one thing to ask before we go for it. Can I go pee real quickly?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long have we got you for? Listen, we can just wrap it up.
Let's
man.
wrapped it up.
Let's just wrap it up.
Wrap
so
it
you
up.
can
This is
pee,
so much fun.
dude.
We'll come
Let's
back
just
another
get into
time.
baseball real quickly.
Okay,
Your
quickly.
predictions. How are the Redbirds going to do?
So the Redbird, this is my prediction. So I've thought a lot about this
Okay.
because I got into a deep discussion with someone the other day about it. So I was like, they were trying to say that the National League is more interesting than the American League. The American League's already figured out, like Houston or I was like, I don't know. So the Central Division in both the American League and the National League are not good. So like they're good enough. but
Down.
They're down. So I believe the Cardinals have a legitimate shot if their pitching can hold up, if Flaherty can be decent, to win the Central Division. Now, what's that's going to
be worse than the lowest wild card team.
Because the best other teams are San Diego and
Dodgers.
the Dodgers in the West, and the Mets, the Phillies, and the Braves in the East. So somebody's going to get
And then
squeezed
you
out.
never know about a team like the Giants who every other year just like come
Right.
on with
So you
nobody.
just don't know.
They have the hottest
I would say
manager
the
in
Giants
all
in
of baseball.
Milwaukee or the Cubs are those teams
Minnesota,
that like,
maybe.
you never know. Now in the American League, it's Houston all the way. Houston's going to make it back to the and I hate them. I hate them. They're going to make it back. Seattle, I would love to see. How great would it be if the Cardinals can't be in it, if the Phillies can't be in it? I'm sure I'd be like, I'd love to see the Mariners win it all. That would be fantastic
Great
for
for
that city.
baseball.
Great for baseball. Central Division again is like, I guess the Twins, maybe Cleveland, maybe the White Sox. We don't know. We don't know. And then the American League
Longer
East,
because I have to pee.
Yeah, your brother's teeth.
the American
His
League
teeth are
East,
flowing.
literally
This is what I'll say about the
pissing myself
American
so
League
that
East
you
is
can
like
go
the
over every
National League
goddamn
East.
player.
There we
in the
go.
league.
No.
Start
It's
going over utility players. So I piss my pants.
The
over here.
Yankees, the Rays,
Hey, I got it.
and
Randy,
Toronto. There you go.
Jason Sklar, thank you very much. Happy Father's Day because you guys are great dads.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you
for having us.
You should listen to Tim on our podcast, View from the Cheap Seats.
Yes.
And then if you haven't, if you have any MMA fans, watch our show, The Nosebleeds, which is basically like Cheap Seats, but for UFC. It's on UFC Fight Pass, but you can watch the first episode for free on UFC's YouTube page. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Sklar Brothers. And on our Instagram bio thing, you can watch the link there.
Philadelphia Phillies fucking #1.
Let's go, Phillies!
Throw down Chase Utley. Go Philly. Cole Hamels. Go.